The Institute of Human Resource Management, the regulatory agency mandated by the law to police the profession, said it had seen an increase in the number of candidates enrolling for certification ahead of a 2020 deadline. The regulator said it had tightened processes to ensure that only qualified professionals practice either as employees or consultants. The Human Resource Management Professional Act, which made practicing certificates mandatory, took effect in January 2013. As at June last year, only 10,000 of the estimated 25,000 professionals in the industry had been licensed, according to the data from the Institute. And of course, we want to drill deeper, as I mentioned, with our panelists. We have them here to take us through what this really portends for the professionals. And of course, what we want to know as well as the whole scope of the human resource capital in the country is concerned, because there's a lot we need to learn, especially in this time where we know, in this epoch of time where companies are retrenching, how prepared the employees when it comes to retrenchment. Of course, we want to see also the whole aspect of packaging. Now, when we have a lot of graduates coming from the universities, how prepared are they to meet what is the expectation of the employers? Because also the employers have been complaining adversely on how there is a mismatch between what they are having from the colleges and what is in the labor market as well. So when it comes to skill sets, how then do we apply, to have a seamless flow from the colleges to the labor market as well? And of course, looking at performance management, that will be another thing as well. Personality within the office, that can be a clash sometimes where people have different values, people have different personalities. So how do we try and of course harmonize, the interrelations between, employees in the company? Also the ergonomics of the office, also that really adds a lot when it comes to, the human capital and how they can fare in the office. And allow me to introduce our guest this morning with us, who will take us through this today. And of course, we know how we normally do it every Friday. They will give us a snippet of what they think is happening within the sector. And I'll be telling you more about also their profiles much later in the course of the program. But just to get a cursory look on what they have for us this morning, I want to introduce them to you. We have with us Ms. Mwikali Muthiani, who is a Human Resource and Organization Development Specialist, and also the founder and managing consultant at the Millennial HR, a HR consultancy firm established in 2013. We do have with us as well Sarah Omaya, who is the Human Resource Director from Davis and Shatlift. We do have with us as well Pamines Wainaina, who is a management consultant, and he is also the CEO and managing partner at Corporate Staffing Services Limited. Also, we do have with us Dorcas Wainaina. She's the Executive Director of the Institute of Human Resource Management. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Right, let's just get into it this morning, and just to get a broader perspective of what we are talking about, just to lay a groundwork on our discussion as well this morning. First of all, we begin with what is very pivotal, because 2020 is the deadline for everyone to be certified. If you're not really certified, then also it means you'll be termed and tagged as a quack. There's so much that is expected from the Act, as well as we've mentioned from the intro as well. But let us just get a perspective from Dorcas this morning. Why 2020, and why has it taken long for everyone to be certified? We thought from every profession, yes, somebody has to be subscribed to a professional body and to be also registered and certified. Why now?
Thank you, Debarl. It hasn't really taken long. First of all, it's important to clarify that to claim to be a professional of a certain profession, it means that you adhere to the ethical standards of that profession and that you have the body of knowledge and in-depth understanding of that profession. Secondly, in Kenya, we got the Act in 2012, so it became effective in 2013. And therefore, we are 5 years down the line. Remember, there's always a transitional year, so then 2014 becomes the timing when we started to really implement the Act, as it were. When it comes to the certification, then we started from November of 2016, so we are really not out of time, because we launched the curriculum in November of 2016, and I think the uptake has been growing from 247 in 2016 June to 397 by December. And as we speak today, we have over 600 that have registered for the certification. Now, by 2020, we expect those practicing to have become certified through the examination.
Yes.
And that's what we are saying. And by 2020, we are saying that the higher national diploma will no longer exist.
All right, let's hear from Pawinas. So how do you think also our professionals are prepared for this? Have you seen a lot of quick uptake in terms of trying to apply and, of course, register for classes in regard to what is expected from the regulator?
I think, as my senior has mentioned, the issue of someone belonging to a professional body is very important. Reason being, when you're a member of a professional body, you are guided by certain standards and ethics. And what we've seen then in the last 2 years, yes, employers and even professionals are appreciating that there's a professional body not only taking care of their interest, but also championing the HR profession. Because right now we are guided by a code of conduct. Before then, anyone could just join the profession and say that they're HR practitioners. And that is why you'd hear things like bribery, corruption, and such kind of things. But now you can be put to task. Even I, someone who runs a HR consultancy firm, someone can say, no, Pawinas, you're not adhering to standards, and there's a disciplinary committee, and such kind of things. So I think it's very important. And I would say these, especially when we look at even the Constitution of Kenya, which came into place in 2010, I think it's a carryover that people now want system and processes, as opposed to just doing things in the dark.
All right.
Yeah.
And of course, you shall be giving us a broad overview of what actually is expected from, you know, the personnel.
Yeah.
When you come out from universities, a lot we know is expected from you. So how do you package yourself in terms of trying to get that competitive edge in the market? Because we believe everyone is coming out of the market maybe with the same papers. So what will be making you diametrically different from someone else who's coming with the same paper on the same table? Will it be talent? Will it be the packaging? And will it be also your resume that will actually make the discernible difference? Just give us a snippet of that very briefly.
It's important to realize that the job market has changed. And what do I mean? In the past 15 years, all you needed was to go through higher education, university, or get your higher diploma.
Yes.
And then you'd apply for a job, and somehow you find yourself getting interviews. Nowadays, because of competition. Before the former president left office, Mr. Moi Kibaki, I mean, we all got these universities being accredited. Now we have 72 universities, both public and private. And then therein is the biggest problem. Because people are going for the higher education simply because of to get the certificates, not the value. So when you come in the job market, then the market is saturated. So you're finding a scenario where employers are asking for more and beyond your qualification. They want to know who are you, what are you bringing to the table. And what we've seen also, it's the rise of the soft skills. It's not enough to just present your technical competencies. Employers asking, what else do you have to offer? So you've seen, even at the entry level, soft skills like leadership skills, communication, interpersonal, the ability also to fit in with a team, within a team, is very key. So I would say those are the two key issues.
All right.
Don't just rely on your technical competencies, and work on your soft skills, even at the early stages of your career.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, you're going to broaden our understanding as far as that is concerned. Sure. Let's hear from Sarah. When it comes to performance management, how pivotal is it? We also normally go through, you know, the performance appraisal as well. But does that really make any discernible difference as well when it comes to performance of individuals? Because we normally see, yes, you can score high, but when it comes maybe to motivation and salary increase, that also is a different kettle of fish.
Thank you very much, Debarl, for the question. Definitely, it makes a difference, because what are we aiming at when we are going through performance management? Our aim is to ensure that the goals of the company are met efficiently and effectively.
Yes.
So definitely, it is an important aspect. So it's not only when it comes to salary and everything, but just to achieve the overall goal of the organization. So it is very important to measure performance.
And of course, also, you're going to drill deeper on that much later as well.
Yes.
Let's hear from Mwikali. Good to see you, Mwikali. Good morning.
Morning.
Right. Of course, we're looking at personalities. Yeah, we have different personalities that are drawn into the vortex of employment, of a company. And sometimes they clash, sometimes they get along harmoniously. And when it comes to looking out for talented personalities, maybe to bring the experience to bear in certain professions, what do you really look for? And maybe to give us also a broader perspective from your end, when you talk about personalities, then what are we looking at?
Thank you, Debarl, and good morning, viewers. When we look at people at a workplace, I think, as you said, they are different. They bring different personalities. And it's important to look at the skills that are critical in a role and look at the personality that is most suitable to perform that role.
Yes.
I'm very pleased that, of course, we have this compliance in HR, which is really good because over time, and we know maybe years back, the person who perhaps didn't do well as a senior manager in a different department often ended up being the one who is sent to HR and told, go and sit there. It's like HR becomes the easiest of job. It's where you're sent to sit, almost making it look like you don't need certain professional skills to be in HR.
It is the lighter duties.
Exactly. And so it was just a place where you put people. So
yes.
I'm really pleased first that we have qualifications requirements for people to practice and really be seen as HR professionals. Mm-hmm. And so personalities also come in there. You got leadership styles, just personalities go alongside leadership style.
Yes, yes.
What is your style? Are you able to motivate people, to align people properly? In HR, of course, you have to be a people's person. Mm-hmm. It's a job, really, we call it a thankless job because you do so much for people, and many times they never remember to come and say thank you. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going into it with a personality that requires affirmation every time, you are in the wrong profession. And so in HR, there are certain personalities that fit there. But then when we hire people, of course, personalities are very important because there are jobs that are, maybe you need people who are very keen to details. If you're recruiting and you need to probe further and check on those skills and ensure they are there, you find that over time, recruitment processes have been just talking. You talk and you're not able to delve deeper to the person and find out really what are their personalities so that they can come and fit well within the organization. And the good thing is, of course, there are many assessment modules that are there that can help employers fit people into the right jobs. Yeah.
And of course, also, I think one pivotal aspect that we need also to train our focus on is diversity and inclusivity also within the labor market. When it comes also to boards as well, we can see that has been such a frustrating, agenda to so many people that we don't have an equal representation in the boards and also looking at also the employment sector as well. Maybe you can shed just a little bit on that, Dorcas. Diversity and inclusion, are we seeing any change so far from the surveys that you've done before? Are we getting any better as a country?
I think, first of all, referencing to the research that was done by Kim not long ago, and I think we've discussed it in this platform before, there is a lot of improvement, and actually Kenya seems to be among those leading in Africa in terms of board diversity of women.
Yes.
But there's diversity of having women in those places, and there's also having women in senior roles in leadership, but there's also how they're remunerated.
Yes, yes.
You find that there's also disparity between how women are remunerated versus men. And that's not just a Kenyan issue of Africa, but it's really kind of a global issue as well. So we have made a lot of progress, and I think we also have, as a country, a system that has continuously recognized the importance of supporting women and putting in place structures that make sure that that happens. I mean, whether it's in procurement, there is that provision as well, regardless of the fact that whether it has worked as effectively as it should, but that our government has recognized the need to have that. So there's a lot of improvement on that. But when you come to HR as a profession, if I may speak of that, for instance, in the exams that were sat in December, we had about 75% of women, and the men were very few, actually were about 92 men. And so the question was, do we have more women in HR than men, or is it that men are afraid of the exam than women? So again, a dynamic that really needs to be looked into. But again, what we see as a trend in these countries that women have really reason to empower themselves, whether through education, whatever it takes. They're in evening classes, they're in conferences, they're in seminars. So perhaps men have felt that they have reached, but that's not a researched statement as I make it. But there is a lot of progress in this country.
Right. Maybe, Mwikali will make it very clear for us as well, because then when it comes to this particular profession, it seems a lot of women, they really take up, these roles. When you go to a lot of companies, of course, you'll find most of them are the human resource directors as compared to men. Why is there such a maybe a low uptick of men taking this responsibility? Is it a personality issue?
I think it's people choose jobs that they know they can do.
Yes.
And so perhaps many women feel more able to run of HR organizations, as you're saying, because maybe it involves a lot of people. There's a bit of mothering really in HR, I would say, but it really, I don't think it's about being a woman. I think it's just about the right skills.
Is it the right skills, or because maybe women
I don't know why men are afraid.
They're very sensitive towards issues as well. Women are
men. There are men there. I mean, like in this country, if you look around, most of the very senior directors are really men. So it's not like they are not there, they are there.
Senior directors, but not in the human resource department. This is where you need to interact with people. Sometimes you've got to have that listening ear. Not just listening, but you empathize, you sympathize
the
with them.
quality of empathy is what women really bring to the table when it comes to managing resources in the workplace. You want somebody who thinks beyond a worker and thinks about this woman who has a husband, who has children, maybe the baby is 3 months, she didn't sleep the whole night, she has come late. Empathy, very important and critical.
All right, so you agree with that? Empathy. Welcome to you, Pamela. Empathy.
Yes.
So we don't have empathy. That is what you're trying to tell me.
No, we are not saying you don't have. Well,
men don't have empathy.
You have it, but that's, I think we can delve deeper into that.
But also, if you look at other skills, even in marketing, it's more women as well. I mean, what are those skills that women tend to have more of that are oriented to these jobs that guys do not have? And so it's also just the desire to do the job, There's also a lot of influencing. There's a lot of networking. There's a lot of just taking care of people in the office, the way you take care of your home. And so I don't know whether that is the reason why women are there. But personally, I moved into HR because I believed I had the right skills to, though you have a desire to bring a balance between what the employer needs and what the employee needs. And if you got that skill, that is what HR is all about. Making sure the employer is not taking advantage of the employee, and the employee is also not demanding too much that the employer will not be able to function. Anybody who has that balance can do HR. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman.
All right. Let's say from Paminis, because I can see you're straining at the leash also to weigh in on this and defend men and say, we have empathy, we can empathize, we can sympathize.
And beyond that, clearly you can see it's an issue of 3 to 1. So you should have directed the question to me first. But there's an important issue I want to bring out. I mean, in the past, HR, and she pointed that, Mwikali pointed that, that HR was not really considered a serious profession. And so you find we did not have a seat in the board. And men are not going to take such. They're not going to take a profession which is not considered competitive or which does not have the right remuneration or the right prestige. So that has been the case. But nowadays you find, and I have a lot of colleagues who are actually either pursuing HR or thinking of joining the profession. So I think that is changing now that we have system and structures in place.
Right. Okay, let's say from Sarah as well. You want to weigh in. I don't know if you also have observed for the classes that you've gone, maybe also during your undergrad and maybe your masters as well. Did you observe this is an issue, looking at the class?
Yes, your observation is true. It is true. But just, I think Mwikali has addressed it, just as she said, I mean, this profession requires you to take care of people. So my thinking as to why many women are in this profession is because there's that mothering aspect that comes with this profession. Yes.
So you have to bring your maternal instinct to bear. of which maybe men, they don't really have that maternal instinct as women do, right? Is that
Yes,
the
that's
case?
what I'm saying, because it comes with empathy. You actually put yourself in someone's
Okay.
shoes.
Okay.
So you understand. So you're in a position to either advise management on a better way to handle this person, or you're also in a better position to talk to this person and make them better, so that whatever they're going through doesn't become an issue.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, let's say from Dorcas.
So while we do that, we don't want it to be seen as if we only bring emotions and mothering to the, work.
Yes.
We also think about the business and what the business needs, and that's what Mwikali said, we must balance, because then otherwise we might be seen then to be mothering too much and forgetting about what really the business needs. So it's really about us balancing and understanding what the business need is, to the extent that if an employee is on the wrong, and the punishment or the corrective measure to be taken is for them to be relieved of their duties, we do so without mixing emotion in that decision that is helpful for the business. Yeah.
And maybe where we can draw that particular line, Mwikali, between business and the employers. When we have the human resource coming in between, whose interest do you really hold? Is it the business or is it the employees? Because that has never been defined. You see a lot of you really leaning, of course, on the business more than the employees, right? So whom are we supposed to actually be, we as employees, be leaning to or going to, because, yeah, tell us, which one do you really, where is the balance?
An employee, of course, the HR office is there for you to go and share your thoughts or your views or your complaints. That is where the office exists, because it's the office that takes care of employee needs. And so for any employee who has a need, you go to the HR office. So it's up to the HR person to be sure that they are impartial in the decision that they are making.
Yes.
It's important to make sure they look at the facts, because employment is a relationship. If you are an employer and you have no employees, you got no business. There's nothing you're doing, because if you don't have people, the business can't run. And then if you have people alone and you need job, and then you don't have an employer, you have nothing. I mean, so it's a relationship of selling and buying and selling. And so that balance has always to be right, because for me, the employee has to be happy to want to continue to serve this employer. As the employer has to go out of their way to meet at least certain needs of the employee, and their basic needs that must be met at the workplace.
Right.
But sometimes, you find employers can really be, I'd say, are very strict in the sense that they always see the employee as the one who is taking and taking. Every time you have to put up your budget as a HR person, it's always being looked at, hey, the employment budget is really high. I mean, what are we going to do about it? But it's a fact that they are people and they need to be remunerated and taken care of so that they can deliver. And so you feel like the employer, given their way, they would always want to give as little as they can. And that's why HR comes in, to be the champion of saying this job is worth this much, and paying it less, you're not being fair to this person. And then, of course, there are the consequences when the employees are not happy.
Yes.
We know the performance goes down, what he's talking about. So if you don't treat your people well, if they don't feel happy, they just slow down. And you're there, busybodies are there doing a lot of work, but at the end of the day, when you want to see the results, you can't find them, and it ends up being very expensive now for the employer. And so my point is, it's always good to listen. And as Doka said, there are researches that are done. You can do engagement surveys to see what are the needs of my employees, how can I meet them? Does it have to be this expensive? There are many ways of motivating employees. For instance, now as we look at the generations that have come to workplace, right now we have 3 generations at workplace. We've got the older, the boomers, the generation X, we've got the Ys, and we've got even Zs who are coming at the workplace. The needs are very different. Some of them are not motivated by, things like mortgages or a big pension. When you are young and you're joining an organization, I think you're looking at the cash that is coming into your account to do certain things. And yet, as HR people, we have policies that are so strict that say, it's like they are cast in stone.
Yes.
They can't be reviewed to meet the needs of these emerging people coming at the workplace. And so HR, again, has to go and look at what is changing at the workplace and how do I tell my employer the things that they need to do differently. One thing, for instance, the younger people ask for is flexibility. We know these guys are not into 8 to 5 jobs, 8 a.m. to 5. Sometimes they'll even ask, about can I work 3 days a week? I don't know when you recruit if you've heard about that. And then an employer will say, no, Why? I mean, if you ask them, why can't I work 3 days a week? Because it means I'll do 3 days. Somebody else will come and do 2 days, and I'll be productive. But we say our policies say it has to be 8 to 5 permanent pensionable contract. I don't know what. I mean, who are the people who are going to change that? It has to be the HR people to help employers understand the world has moved on. We are getting a new breed of employees who are asking, a breed of employees who are asking for different needs, and we have to listen to them.
So are we listening? That's the biggest question now. And of course, you raise a good point there, Wikali. We want to know, is this also the role maybe just also of a regulator who will come with a template that, yes, all maybe the human resource management practitioners need to actually cascade to all the organizations. So this is a template for all. When it comes to pension, this is how we're going to treat it. As you mentioned, everything is it cast in stone. How do we also move with the times? Because we're actually living in a very different dispensation right now. And as far as employment is concerned, then we need to change the script as well. You're watching the Leadership Forum, and of course we continue with the conversation apace with the panelists here who are taking us through on what is happening within the human resource capital in the country. And we've been discussing largely on what we do know that is required of them right now. Come 2020, it will be a deadline when every human resource practitioner has to register and be certified. If you don't do that, then you'll be tagged a quack. Before we took a short break, of course, we were looking at what is happening, especially with the personality, and we had Wikali and, of course, also Dorcas weighing in on that as well. And we want to just drill deeper right now. We'll not continue with the lecterns or them coming to talk to us this morning because of interest of time. As I mentioned earlier, before we took a short break, we'll be crossing over to State House, where the swearing in of the Cabinet Secretary is expected to be happening, and we have Leila Mohammed, who will keep us apprised of what is happening over there as well. So when they're ready and we have a signal, we'll cross over there. But before we continue, let's continue with our discussion with our panelists here. And before we took a short break as well, we know, Wikali, that we're talking of Generation X, Generation Y. We have the Millennial, I don't know if it's now the Generation Z. Yes, and how also we can try and rope them in as well. The question is on the aspect of flexi time that they do want. You know, they want things done diametrically different from how we've had, you know, the modus operandi. Maybe you can just drill deeper on that. Do you think also most of the companies have been able to accommodate the millennials?
I think many companies still try to understand the millennials. And also the millennials, because they are right now the bigger chunk of employees in any organization. If you look at the age group, this should be guys in their 30s towards their late 20s, their 30s, going into maybe close to 40s now. And sometimes I think the failure has been the management to change the way they think, because over time you say it has worked well. We've managed people this way, you know. Why change now? Because change, of course, may mean some investment. But then the things that some of these young people are looking for are they're like lifestyle things. You know, it's not about an office at the corner or anything. First, like these are guys who want to listen to music as they work. You find there are policies that do not even, I mean, there are guys who you say, you're listening to music? Can you understand what's going on? How do you pick the phone when it rings? That is a very simple thing. These kids even listen to music and they study. So what is it that they can't do at the office? And so for them, in fact, when I investigated, they say, when I put my headphones on as I work, I concentrate. And so when you're telling that person, you can't do this in my office, it means they will not be productive. But because it never worked for you, because you are older, you are told, you know, you need to come, look clean, sit, get your job done. You think it should apply all the way with the new people. So there should be some levels of flexibility, and also talking to them.
All right.
Many times we want to say they are the ones who have a problem. Of course, they have their needs.
Yes.
And I don't think they will change. They will always come to workplace with very different expectations. They want to do things in a different way. They don't want to be totally overly supervised. They want to be given freedom to make certain decisions. And when employers or their leaders don't understand that, when they ask very daring question, it's in sorry,
the flames
it's
in the morning.
As insubordination or something, you know. So there's just it's not actually a big investment to interest millennials in the workplace. But then I also feel there's a place to talk to them, to tame down some of the things that they come to workplace and expect, you know. they'll come and, you know, like you talk to them about how do you manage your boss. You know, your boss is not your parent.
Yes.
So come there, and a boss is a boss. Listen to them, take guidance. When you are given assignments, don't go and Google the answers. Come and check with your boss, are you doing it right? Because that's what they'll do. They'll just go Google quickly, and they do it their way. And here has been a direction of how the work needs to be done in alignment to the policies or within the workplace. I'm not saying Googling is bad. In fact, it's good because they are bringing creativity at the workplace. And maybe this job that has so many stages can be done very quickly.
But Googling should be the last resort. Yeah?
Should it be? I
It
mean,
should be the last resort just to consult. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah? Because now we're really churning out people who are not really using their cognitive skills. They always know there's Google to rely on, of course, and pick up the answers. Plagiarism, if maybe they needed to, you know, submit even a thesis as well. So we can see things are happening dramatically different when it comes to, you know, using the Google. But you raise a very important point. But self-entitlement is what also the millennials, they feel that they need to have their way, and being given that wiggle room in almost everything, Sarah, because I think this is something you're grappling with, because they feel they're entitled with the people who, you know, who really know. We want to dress whichever way we want to, because yes, this is our epic of time, this is our dispensation. You're old and you know, you're grumpy and frumpy, so we don't want to go with the old modes. Yeah. So when it comes to the issue of self-entitlement, how do we handle this?
Now, I'd say that I fall in that category. Let me first say that, of people who, yes, who want to be liberal, not to be told, I mean, come at 8, leave at 5. For me, this is what works, or my thinking is this. Tell me what my output should be. Measure me on my efficiency. Have I delivered? My coming in at 8 or coming at 5 does not make me a better employee from where I sit. However, there must be rules, or else there shall be chaos. And that's why I agree with Moikali when she says, you actually talk and communicate. And how it works with millennials is you must have a meeting point.
Yes.
They feel that you're actually taking care of their interests, and it will be easier for them to come on your side for the few things that you are actually requesting them to do. Dress well, you know, of course, don't be late for meetings, keep time, deliver to perfection. They will definitely do that. However, there must be a meeting point, and that is where we come in.
Okay.
That is where HR comes in.
All right, let's hear from Paminas.
The workplace is very dynamic. Earlier on, we used to refer to workers as personnel, but nowadays you find that has changed to human resource management, to really look at employee engagement. Because whether you're talking about the millennials or the old employees, both workers need to be engaged. And how do you engage them? Number one, have proper systems and procedures such that everyone knows what is expected of them. Number two, I believe, is the open communication. The days of just, you know, issuing instruction or you having a corner office and you're looking down upon your staff, that will not cut in this modern era. So it's a give and take, as my colleagues have mentioned, whereby you have a participative approach, you know, because at the end of the day, I believe you are all, both the workers and the management and the investors, you are working towards a common goal. How do we satisfy our customer needs and have a positive return? So I would say, where you find a lot of crashes where, you know, someone wants to have a winner take it all mentality, you know, it shouldn't be a lose-lose situation. I believe there's a way that employees and employers can work together to the greater benefit of the organization. And that will mean being flexible for both parties. I have a situation where this firm I consult for, where the average age is, it's an IT firm, the average age is 27 years. Obvious, even the people in the leadership there, they are very good technical.
Yes.
But you find, because they've never managed, they encounter a lot of challenges.
Yes.
So if these professionals who are very good, you know, in terms of technical competence, can just listen, you know, they can be open to advice.
Yes.
And not necessarily even from their bosses, you know, because that's the thing we are encountering in the workplace, where the millennials say, no, I'm very good at these, I want these working hours. But at the end of the day, you have to learn, you're not a total package. Yeah. And that is where you find issues of coaching and mentoring are coming in strong in the workplace, just to try and bring the millennials up to speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe we can just have a final remark on the millennials. We drill deeper to other matters from Dorcas.
That's where I was going to start from.
Okay.
As a regulator, first of all, we would like to say that employers need to listen to their HR advisors in-house. They are competent, they are prepared to manage. And therefore, if that happens, we are going to minimize some of the cases I see in the labor and industrial relations courts that shouldn't have even landed there. If there's a redundancy, it's not an overnight thing. You knew about it, prepare your staff, cancel them, and prepare a package that is acceptable, or at least negotiated. So I'm saying that in terms of employers, your HR professionals are ready to support you. So it's important to also listen, as opposed to seeing this as just a support role or perhaps a flower kind of role in the workplace. And that's why the certified HR professional qualification is more focused on practical skills. Googling doesn't come in, because then that is where we are saying you are going to look at concepts, analyze them, and then interpret them within a certain situation. And that is why some of the programs we've introduced there is like HR accounting. It was not there before, so our professional cannot say they are not good with figures. Leadership and governance, counseling, coaching, and mentorship. These are the programs that are in this certification program. But also we are talking about boss is not a parent, and I echo what Mikali is saying. With the current workforce, we are 4 generations now. By 2020, we'll have 5 in the workplace. A boss will have to end up being a parent. And we all as employers should stop pretending that we don't understand millennials. They are our children. We gave birth to them. We know how they behave at home. So they don't behave differently in the workplace than from at home. So we've got to also guide them to align to what is expected in a workplace. Of course, there's a way to dress to go to a meeting. Of course, there's a way to address somebody who's superior to you, same as parent. Of course, what I see a lot more with the millennials is that they are more open-minded. Or confident, but I think some are labeling them overconfident. So when you ask them to do something, they say, but mommy, why should I do that? My son tells me, but mommy, you're seated there, but you're sending me there. Can't you stand up and go and do it? I couldn't say that to my parent. They are simply open-minded, they're inquisitive, they're curious. That is all there is. If we understand that, that can make the relationship a bit better. A sense of entitlement is just that they're more aware. They were born into a cell phone, so they can be in US in 2 minutes, and then they go to Australia in the next 3 minutes through the phone. So they know the dynamics across the world. The rest of our parents who were born, they only know Kenya, if at all, not just in their village. So these kids would be more curious. Why is it happening in the US and not here? Why must I work 8 to 5? In the US, I see there's what is called flex. That's why they ask these questions, you know. And so we are saying our HR practitioners are getting prepared with the practicals of this certification program to be able to introduce in the workplace better practices that can accommodate all these generations that we have. Lastly, who are making decisions at the board? 60, 50, 55. The decisions they're making, who are they impacting? The millennials. Something needs to be thought about. I'm not saying millennials should be at the board, but I'm saying how can their way of looking at things be accommodated and discussed and deliberated on in the board level.
All right, board level, I think also that has been a very contentious debate on whether we can actually rope in millennials in the boardroom. And people are arguing, they're saying, of course, experientially, they don't really have the wherewithal to actually be in the boardroom as well. But where do we come into place where we bring now experience and maybe knowledge to bear within the boardrooms as well? Mikhail, you can tell us that, because I think that has been a bone of contention right now. We've had for people arguing that maybe even the Senate with the universities, we need to bring young people who they have a different perspective altogether as far as the curriculum is concerned, or the faculty is concerned. I don't know, what is your input?
I think my view on composition of a board is about the skills that are critical within that board for it to function. And it doesn't mean young people can't bring those skills. And some of them could be deliberate and saying we also need to have views of a young person in the board and bring in a seat of the young people just based on that you want to have their views. And so when you look at most of the board compositions, it's really based on you need this skill, you need this skill, you need this skill. That's what makes a board work very properly. It's not about just putting people together with big names or you know. And I think there is now a lot of professionalism even in the way boards are being, people are being appointed to boards. We see even advertisements. The boards that I sit on, I applied because the positions were advertised. I sit in the board of Amnesty International. In fact, I'm the board chair of Amnesty International. And I sit in the board of World Africa Animal Protection. And those were jobs that were advertised, and you apply and you go and you're interviewed, and people are looking for the skills that you're going to bring into the board. And so the boards need to, in their assessment of the competencies that are required, I think it's important to look for diversity that includes younger people, because I tell you for truth, they bring a voice that is different. They bring also views that can manage, that can enable the board see things from a different perspective, because it's very easy to just see things from, it has worked like this for the last 20 years, you know, the trends are looking like this, so if we do it like this, we will get there. And somebody will just come and spin it around and say, have you thought about this? I mean, when you look at skills, for instance, we are taught that the kids who are in primary school right now, about 50% of them will be into jobs that don't exist even up to now. I mean, what is that? What does that mean for any employer? What does that mean even for people who are preparing kids for jobs into the future? What does it mean for you, Dorcas, as you review your curriculum, you know? Because the curriculum can never remain rigid. It has to keep changing, because the employment, we hear about artificial intelligence coming to take over jobs. What is going to happen to everybody, you know? And so there are many things that actually, I mean, there are many ways to strengthen the board, and I think it should be diverse enough to include young people.
Right. Is there the aspect of mismatch? Maybe Paminas, you can tell us. When we have the board composition, Mukali, as you mentioned, which is largely with the people who are 50 and above, and we have the young millennial, 24, 20, sitting on the board as well. Maybe the older, folks will try and be condescending to the young person. They cannot actually give a lending ear to the young person as well, maybe passing his or her head over some comments to the other people who they think experientially they can bring much fruit to bear as compared to the young person. How do we also treat the young people within the board composition if they are there? And Mikali will tell us, as the board chair right now, also with Amnesty International, are you also considering, or do we have young millennials as well?
We have a young person there. I think she's from Peru. She's young. I think she's maybe in her late 20s. That is the youngest board member we have right now at an international board. And before then, we had one who was 23 years old. And so,
Debarl,
and it's not about, we don't go say elect the youth, because Amnesty, it's about you go campaign and you are elected. And so they come, they share their views, and they are picked by the members to represent.
Thank you. Maybe we can give it to Dorcas, because I know Dorcas will be leaving in a while. You are sticking around with me. So let's hear from Dorcas. Yes?
In terms of millennials,
in terms of millennials. And of course, as a regulator, maybe we should come up with a quota that is expected to every, I don't know, that you're not dealing with the boards. Yours is purely, human resource. But should you also suggest, moving forward as well, the composition of a board, we should consider the millennials as well?
Thank you, Debarl. I'm hired a trained, qualified person on board competence.
Yes.
And so I've learned a few things on that. One of the things that we all must accept is the fact that we are going to see a lot more of reverse mentorship from the younger to the older ones. I mean, I see them being shown a whole lot how to use a certain phone. They have it, they can receive a call, but there's nothing else they can. Even that alone is that some younger person is mentoring you how to use this gadget that you don't know how to use it. And therefore, when it comes to workplace, and while we are in the board making certain decisions on benefits, perhaps, on office space, must the walls in the office be painted white? I like to have a different color. These views need to come to the boardroom, and while they may not necessarily sit there, boards also discuss matters that are highly, highly confidential. And some of these things come with age, but I'm not necessarily saying that age has kept confidentiality. That's the truth of the matter. But I am saying that if there must be a way for their views to be brought, nothing stops the board from saying, can so and so come and give us views on this, and then they step out as they deliberate further. And I'm sure Mwikali can also advise us on that, because when they come and give their views, those in the board who are deliberating, then they know there's a different dynamic we need to look at. So gradually, it's important to think of how we can incorporate the younger who are going to be impacted by the decisions of the board in the board, not necessarily permanently. It can be for a period of time or for whatever the agenda that is on the table at the time. What are we doing as the regulator, Institute of Human Resource Management, at the moment? Working with Kenya Bureau of Standards, we are working to set standards for HR practice in this country. Some have already been completed, and it's a matter of sensitizing the public about the same. And setting standards will mean every employee and every practitioner of HR will work within the precincts of those practices, but they also change, you know. Over time, as Mikale said, these practices have got to be reviewed time and again. So would the curriculum to be able to prepare us for the world we are headed to. Obviously, some of the questions you could ask with artificial intelligence would need a customer care representative, for instance. You just come tap a machine and it tells you what goes on in that organization,
Yes.
and then you go up and get what you need done. So there are jobs that will not exist, but how do we go along together with standards and practice? Should we set quotas? Perhaps that's where we are headed as a world, that we need a quota. And let me tell you what happens with a knowledgeable populace that is also becoming too aware and sometimes too litigious as well. They are going to agitate to be in the board, whether we like it or not. They'll say, we want to be in the board to say what we need done in this organization. Times have a way of forcing some of these things to happen. They may not have happened now, but the future we are headed to is going to have that to happen. One of the organizations that is also IT related, they have these ping pong tables, you call them? It's a table. Let me tell you, they walk out of their desk, I found them playing, I'm thinking, where I was working, this is not. Then they had a basketball thing, then they said, nah, I'm tired, I just want to refresh, then I go back to work. Within the office setup, this is changing. Nobody's anyway going to walk around with a flask of tea, bring it to your desk and putting there with the cup. You're gonna go around and get the tea and, you know, go away. Things are going, circumstances are going to force the society to change anyhow.
All right, let's say from Paminas.
Yeah, and I also think a bigger issue is on succession management. Last week I did an article which was published on Business Radio on why we are having these CEOs where one day you hear in this company, the next day the other one, and such like. And what I was trying to address in that article is, don't we have, you know, potential where companies, you know, just head hunting from one organization to other. Obviously there are merits to that. Organization, they do a cost-benefit analysis to arrive at such a decision. But the bigger issue here is succession planning. How are you preparing your younger team to take positions of leadership? Because like Doc has said, you don't just wake up one day and realize, no, you need someone in leadership. You know, it's a process. From the time they join the institution, you should be able to have processes, programs that can prepare them to take over, whether it's at board level or whether you're talking about a managerial position. And that is something that especially the mid-sized firms in Kenya have shied upon. We see that a lot with the multinationals and the foreign firms, but there's a lot of work needed in that area. And could be because a lot of these medium-sized firms are family-owned, so they've really not professionalized their work environment. But I think it's key. Yeah, so it's not just also about you know, one day waking up and feeling, no, we need a young dynamic person at the leadership level. It's what you do in between, from the time they join to your organization until when the need arises.
All right.
Yeah.
That's my last one as I go. So please, employers, they need to make sure the HR professionals are registered and that they are studying towards the certification of HR professionals. And that way, they are going to comply. So that decisions they are making don't come to a point where something has gone wrong only to realize the person was not registered and they were not holding a practicing license, which in itself is now becoming legally a problem for employers.
All right, thank you very much. And I think I'll release you. It's 7:30, almost 7:30 on the nose, and you have to go for a board meeting this morning. Thank you very much, Dorcas Wanaina. She's the Executive Director of Institute of Human Resource Management. And of course, she's reminding you, if you're not registered as a human resource practitioner, also you'll be, you know, tagged as a quack come 2020. So make sure you're registered and you get a license as well as a practitioner. And of course, that will be recognized by the Institute as well. Thank you very much, Dorcas, for coming through this morning. Right, we will release you and we'll continue with the conversation at pace. Let's just come to, before we come to Mikale, let's talk to you, Sarah. I want you to tell us, first of all, in this dispensation that we are in right now, Mukali mentions artificial intelligence, which is a big threat. Of course, most of the organizations, the performance will be taken by, just a robot doing everything that we know from walking, because we can see a lot of robots are coming, to the market right now, especially when it comes to reception. How are we as a country prepared? Because we always sit back and say, that will not really come into a country. How, as a country, are we prepared, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Allow me to start with a quote by Alvin Toffler. He said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." So definitely as a country, we need to start learning and unlearning, and we relearn. Where are we going to? So it is something that I think many organizations need to think about in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Mukali, artificial intelligence, you raised that.
Yes,
Are we prepared as a country, especially with artificial intelligence? That is a big threat. Is the writing on the wall?
I think maybe we are not, and maybe they still, I think it's about starting to think about it, because it will happen. I think we see statistics that talk about in 20 years, I think 50% of the jobs will be done by, will be taken over by artificial intelligence, stuff like that. But it's more about reskilling ourselves. I think we need to think, what are the skills that are critical in the future that we need to invest in? So the things that can be easily transferable to something else to do will definitely be transferable. But there are skills that will need a person to be there to do a certain thing. And so how do you invest on those skills, identify them? There's research, there's people relationships, there's, here even a machine will be able to diagnose your ailments and, prescribe medicine, What happens to our doctors? So there are things we need to think seriously. We can't all be the people who are making the machines, but there must be a place where our skills need to be being focused on. I don't know what it is, but I think we need to start thinking very seriously about the skills that are critical for organizations as the future evolves. Yes.
Right. Pamela, I think also when we talk about skills, and you've been also in that field, Mukali, you've been in that field as a consultant as well, and there is a hue and cry from most organizations that there is a mismatch between what we have as graduates and what we have in the labor market. The interface is not really interlocking. First of all, we have too much knowledge and no practice, or not bringing this knowledge to bear when you're given the opportunity. And they're saying, of course, we have a half-baked, so to speak, graduates that are coming from the universities. What is the reality?
Yeah. I think I agree with your statement, because a lot of times when I engage with employers, because corporate staffing services, what we do is recruitment, majorly as a service. And you find what employers are complaining about is the quality of the graduates, in terms of they are not trained on these market-driven courses.
Yes.
So you find, and I know of one telecom where they had to go and actually set base in a university, and they help the university come up with a curriculum so that by the time you're finishing the 4 years, at least you're competent to join the organization. So you can see over and above incurring other costs, even as an institution now you're being forced to go at that basic level, whereby you're partnering with the universities. So I think it's at policy level, because it's not fair. Sometimes when I hear people saying half-baked graduates, I mean, they're not in charge of the bakery. The issue here is government, policy level, because when you have 72 universities all offering arts courses, what are we doing about the technical areas? The other day I was sharing with a journalist that there's a position we are trying to fill of a plumbing technician, and it took her 6 months.
To get a qualified plumber.
She's in that field, she can tell you.
Yes.
It took her 6 months to fill that position. The salary was good, but every time you interview, there were very few in the candidates in the market. Yeah, with majority of them actually having gone out of the country. So that's something that we really need to address at the policy level. And I support what the education ministry is doing, trying to make sure there's quality, and not just churning out employees in the market. But the other thing we must also address is the issue of multi-skilling. Because nowadays, the issue of you just being employed as customer service person and saying this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm going to concentrate on is wrong on. Probably if you're in accounting, you probably be required to bring in some numbers, you know. I'm sure you've gone into a bank and the person who's serving you, they're also selling you some products, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so things have changed. So one skill really doesn't do these days. It's very important to survive in the job market, whichever profession you are, to think of having additional skills that can make you competitive and relevant. Yeah.
Right. Let's hear from Sarah. When, of course, you are in your company, because Yisi mentioned, of course, plumbing skills. And we know in this country, we are turning every tertiary college to a university, and we don't have technical universities. Maybe we're just solely concentrating on that particular aspect. Very few of them, Technical University of Kenya here, we know of JKUAT, but they've diversified. They're giving other, you know, other faculties also a chance as well, law and all that jazz. But how is it how is it adversely affecting you as an employer when it comes to looking for these appropriate skills? Plumbing is very key, of course, in the industry that you're in, where you're trying to dig wells, where you're trying to do, you know, issues of planting pumps as well. Good plumbing is one thing in this country. When you try to look for a plumber, it's true, you all have all these quirks. People are not really qualified, right? And they might be really having the skills, but they don't have the papers. But how can we address this? That here you're fully qualified, you take them to do the work, it is perfect, but they don't have the requisite papers as well to actually make them not be, you know, tagged as quack.
Now, in the past, such professions like plumbing and all, it used to be
Carpentry, yes.
Carpentry, it
Yes.
used to be based on apprenticeship. So you learn from someone and you pass on the skill to someone else, like that. However, where we are going to, this skill needs to be certified. It needs to have been tested. You need to learn more and more. And so universities need to take up these skills that used to be taken as just a skill that you learn from someone and make them into a skill that you can actually go to school and get certified.
Yes.
And actually get certification good enough to give you employment, because apprenticeship these days, you don't have, how will you quantify what have you learned, what have you not learned? You understand?
Yes.
So in the future, I think it's something that universities need to take up seriously. The professions that used to be premised on apprenticeship need to be taken up. Yeah.
But what do you experience also as a practitioner when it comes to maybe having these graduates from university and you've now put them now in the field and their delivery maybe is not really what you expected? Do you experience that? Is there a mismatch? And you have someone who will come from a polytechnic and, you know, the output will be diametrically different.
Well, sometimes, of course, sometimes you experience that. However, it also depends on your level of recruitment. How do you vet the people you take on board? So by the time you're taking them on board, you will have already picked out the skills that you want. So it's a rigorous activity from where we are at, and we actually ensure that the people we pick are what we need. So it has caused us to have a more rigorous, a more practical kind of interview, more than just you come with your papers, oh, so you've done this, okay, fine, come on board.
All right.
Yeah.
Mugali, I think from the beginning you mentioned a very interesting word, listening. Are the employers listening to what the employees really want? Do we listen? Do people listen? Do they really go and peel back and find out what is really frustrating the employers, aside from maybe bonuses they give, aside from what could be the question, the underlying issues when it comes to listening? Maybe you can broaden that particular aspect.
I think some employers try to listen to the needs of the employees, and one good way of listening is really doing some research within the organization. You call them, they're called like employee engagement surveys or staff survey, because employees are given an opportunity to share anonymously, or even if they want to share, for them to share, knowing who has said, just to share their views. And when an employer opens the door for employees to speak, they encourage them to speak, and employees speak, because you're just saying, I wish this would be ABCD. And so the question is, when the employer sees that information, what do you do with it? Because that is now when you see the pulse of where are my employees, this is what they are unhappy with. They also say the things that they are very happy with. They also say the things that they think need to be improved, because they also give suggestions. They are the ones on the other side.
Yes.
You know, they say, if I can be enabled in one way, 1, 2, 3, I can do better than I am doing now. And so that dialogue needs to continue. And then when the information has come and, you know, employers are looking at it, how committed are they to listen to the issues that have been said? And that is where HR now becomes very critical, because surveys are led by HR. So you go convince your employees to participate, they participate. Even if you don't have 100% participation, even if 30% have spoken, those are your employees, listen to them. Because if you are very transparent over time,
yes,
many will speak. Then when you receive the issues, you deal with them. There will be issues that you can say, these ones are very quick to deal with, go give feedback. For here, we will do ABCD. There may be others that are shorter term. You say, this one, we may do ABCD because of, and you give reasons, because again, it's about conversing with this person who brings something that is important that you need as an employer. And then there will be some that may be really difficult, and you're saying the financial situation, we need a bigger investment. Just be very forthright about that and say, for these ones, maybe not now. And we can't do it because of ABCD. You realize when you talk to employees, they're human beings, they understand. And they understand, because they also don't want the company to go under, because they need their jobs. And so you find when you speak to them and explain the circumstances where everyone is at, they understand. There's this myth that people feel the guys, you know, there's so much, we're making so much money and only very little comes to us. I mean, be very transparent about where the money is coming from, how it's coming in, how it is being shared. As you talked about bonuses, when you've done very well as an organization, if you're able to pay bonuses, is it paid uniformly, you know, to what, up to the last person, so that everybody feels truly my input has been recognized. It's not just my salary alone, because bonus is just way and above, a way of rewarding employees for the business that they've brought to the organization. And so employers have to really research, because if your employees are not open to talk to you as you do a town hall and say what their issues are, then just do a staff survey, do an engagement survey, get information and act on the information that they give you. Because if you don't act, the next time you ask them to participate, they will not. Because they will say, after all, we are always doing these things and nobody comes back to tell us what they do with the information that we've given them. And so employers have really to research and then act on the information.
So this is just a ticking off the checklist, you know, this is just a given year. Of course, we'll just do another survey, but it will not bring any difference to bear.
It has to, yeah, that's what they feel if you don't act on it. And then, you know, over time, actually you can track. If you do engagement surveys, let's say, every year, as an employer, over 5 years, you can track the issues that have been coming up from your employees. And you can proudly demonstrate, we dealt with this, and as you deal with this, other new things come. And so you continue to address them, you never give up, because you're never sure what the issues they are struggling with are.
Thank you.
Know? Yeah.
Thank you. Let's say from Pamina's, when it comes to issue of repackaging yourself, because I think for the next 20 years, everyone will be holding maybe a doctorate or a PhD, because you're coming to the table with the same qualification. So how do you repackage yourself? Because we come with the same qualifications to the employer, but there will be that extra factor that he'll be looking for. So will it be about the papers? Will it be about the repackaging?
You said something very important, and that is nowadays everyone has a qualification. Someone has a certificate to show what they've done in the last 4 years or something, or that they've gone through a tertiary system. So with that in mind, there are two things that are key for me. Number one is the issue of value proposition. What are you bringing to the table? Sometimes I get sad when I interview even very senior candidates, and they tell me they are looking for salary X, Y, Z because they have an MBA or they've worked for this very big institution. So they've not really understood their value, their worth, and what they are bringing to the table. Because at the end of the day, it's an exchange. You know, employer is telling you, okay, so I want to hire you, but I want to hire you because of this and that, on the ability and what you can be able to deliver. It's not just a matter of qualification. So that brings to the fore the issue of personal branding, understanding yourself. The other thing, and I had mentioned that in the introduction, is the issue of the soft skills. That is really becoming big in the workplace. So, because you can't grow in your career, you can't advance if you don't have the soft skills. And what are soft skills? The soft skills I'm talking about, it's the ability to relate with people, you know, both up or downwards. And here you're talking about, you're talking about leadership skills, you're talking about you being innovative, you know, ability to fit in within a team. Those are key. So you find, whether it's a fresh graduate or a very experienced hire, employers are very much interested with the soft skills. I've also had a scenario where you hire someone, they're very brilliant, but zero on soft skills. And you find within 2 or 3 months, they've exited. Actually, they've been forced to exit. Yeah. And they wonder, you know, I'm very good, I'm able to bring in the numbers. But yeah, because you're not able to manage your team, you know, you're not even able to show the softer side of you, the company is not going to retain you. Because no matter how good you are, you know, you can't be compared to a team. So I believe the modern job market is really asking for those 2 key components. And the best part about it is that professionals are in charge of that. You don't have to go for an extra qualification. It's just being self-aware. And Mukari brought a very important issue. Do a personality test. Understand yourself. See the areas where you need to improve on. Talk to friends.
Yes.
You know, if you are watching these, seek the audience of your manager and ask them, I mean, what are the areas you feel I need to improve on? Over and beyond my ability to deliver, over and beyond the technical competencies. So I think these are the conversations that we need to start having. Not only for our survival in the workplace, but also career advancement and growth.
All right, let's hear from Sarah.
He's actually tackled it very well. I don't know what else to add. But yes, I agree. I mean, the soft skills are quite key. Yeah. And I like what he said. It is not something you go to school and learn. It is within professionals. So it's something that everyone needs to have a self-assessment and relook within you. You have so many sources. Your manager, go sit with your manager, find out. You know, they say feedback is breakfast for every champion. So take the feedback and work on it.
All right.
Yeah.
I just want to say something about that because I think it's important for employers also to invest in training their employees on whatever they consider soft skills, because you live in a population where there are many other people. You need to interact with each other, talk to them about finances, help them to stop focusing on the pay slip, help them to create wealth, talk to them about managing their money, because when they are happier, they are more productive. If you look at the Ask HR column today, the question that I'm answering is about a young lady who is saying, I come to the office, my colleague dresses better than me, I feel inadequate, I'm jealous. I mean, the HR person has no clue what is affecting the performance of that girl. And those are issues that there has to be a forum where people just sit and say, what is challenging you? What are the issues that you are dealing with, you know? Instead of, I mean, just sitting there and sitting, and your productivity keeps going down, and the person who is causing the problem, then they are going ahead and their career is rising, and you are there feeling inadequate. And when you look at the many questions we answer every Friday, there's a situation where you feel like even some questions they don't want to go to the HR office because they feel nobody will address or will answer me properly, you know. This thing of go to HR, go talk to your HR person. They always come back and say, Mikhail, you don't know my HR manager. They never listen. The organization, you know, they are for the management.
Yes.
And so HR people also have really to know what their role is. It is that balance, you know, between the employee and the employer. You can never be lean on either side. You have to be in the middle. And just see yourself, as an employer, what would you want to have? What would you want to see or receive from your employees? Go on the other side, see yourself as an employee. How would I want to be treated by my employer? And just strike that balance. And so influence, convince, talk to the management, look for funds, be creative. And some of the trainings that are available in terms of soft skills are even online. It's a matter of organizing for your employees to be able to access them. But also the employees have to invest on themselves. You don't have to wait for the employer to say you need to go for this course. Also, what are you doing to improve yourself? To do personality tests, as Vanessa said. Go and get them done. See the areas that you need to improve on. You interview and really you get very disappointed when you're looking for candidates. They come out strong. When you go and do the personality test, it's hopeless. It doesn't match the job. And you can't advance that candidate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can we talk also about, because you've mentioned about frustration, maybe where you have one employee addressing well and the other that you've alluded to, the column that you've written to, of which you're the columnist. The question would be then equal pay for equal work, right? Because we have salary discrepancies within organization. You find you may be working doing the same job, but you'll find the salary scale is completely different. And of course, maybe the human resource will always think maybe this is a secret, as in it's just between me and you, the other employer or your colleague doesn't really know. But that is not true. That one also adversely affect. Could you address the same issue as well? Because this can be sometimes really frustrating. Let's say from Mikali,
well,
then we'll come to...
That's always the joke, that we sign confidential letters that say your salary is personal to yourself.
Yes.
You're not supposed to share it with anyone. But we know everybody almost knows what everyone else earns in an organization. How does it get out? I don't know. But people share somehow that information, because I don't think it is leaked by people in HR. It's just people saying or comparing notes, because they are looking for knowledge or information so that they can go and argue better when they go to present their case for a salary review. And then, of course, it's a catch-22, because if I'm going to say a salary is paid better than me, the first question the HR person will be asking, how did you know? I mean, and that should never be the question. The question should be, is it true? Go and check, you know. And so, you know, that comes now to the issue of pay imbalances, and they do exist. And I think they are driven by, first, the way people come and negotiate when they're negotiating for their salary. In fact, there's this talk that, and I think it's a fact, that women will negotiate and almost get a lower salary than a guy would, and simply it's because of how aggressive, maybe they don't want to come out as it's all about money, it's about the job, you know, I can do it. And so they will just, in fact, you don't negotiate, you don't argue a lot with the lady candidates, because they've put their figure there and they say, if you can give me this, I'll be happy. Guys, sometimes they come and you have to bring them down to the salary. Why is it like that? You know, the
different
guy,
needs.
It's not different needs. I mean, the money is going to the same kit. Yeah? But my challenge actually to HR people, something that I think we need to rethink.
Yes.
Is about what we call the HR scales, salary scales. That really cause this problem. Because, you know, you have a range of salaries there, and I think every employer has them. You say, this is the minimum salary, this is the mid, this is the top, you know. And so when we come to start a new job, the way I argue, your flexibility to place me anywhere, because it's right. I can place you anywhere in that range. So if you are not negotiating well and you ask for the minimum, or you ask for something which is not even within the scale, I'll give you the minimum. Somebody else comes and says, I'm being paid this, blah, blah, blah. You put them on the midpoint, and it is the same job. I think one of the biggest problems we have is actually the salary ranges that every employer has. And if it were possible, I think we should really work towards getting rid of them. And just say, this is, everybody who comes into this job, this is where you start. And start there, and then grow your job or your salary on performance. Because then now it can't be uniform. But if the starting is wrong, then your salary will always be, you'll always be disadvantaged.
Yes. So from that point, because it seems when they say that we negotiate, we'll find also a person from the human resource department, the manager there, he's absolutely sticking with that particular bare minimum, right? So you wonder then, what are we negotiating? If you've come with your own conditions and I have my conditions, and say no, we cannot go below this. This is what it's like. This is a wholesome choice that you have, right? So how do we address that very briefly?
Yeah, 2 years back we did a survey on why employees leave a company, and from the findings, I think 32% of them mentioned the first thing was to do with the work environment. If it's a toxic work environment, they are definitely going to leave. The next one was at 28% was the issue of salary and benefits. So the issues of money is key, and we really can't sweep it under the carpet. But what really I find strange is employers really want to corner employees. You know, pay the cheapest, and yet we are very good at saying employees are our greatest resource. It doesn't make sense. So what I tell employers, I mean, it doesn't matter because you find employees are very reasonable. If it's a startup, they'll not be expecting you to pay them at the level of a multinational. You know?
Yes.
If I have 1 or 2 years of experience, a lot of the candidates out there are flexible, you know? So if you're an employer, what I tell you is have a look at the market. Look at job websites. Come even to corporate staffing services website. You'll be able to see where an employer is open to us indicating the salary. We normally indicate. So if you're hiring an accountant, you'll be able to see this is the range. So an exercise that cannot take you 15 minutes. And then pay within the market rate and even the benefits. You know, because you don't want someone who's come, they're ready to work for you, you know, they're gearing to go, but within 1 or 2 months, they either cannot be able to meet their needs or they realize they got a raw deal, you know. And in an employer's market whereby there are few opportunities, you know, and a lot of candidates chasing them, you know, and an employer has an upper hand. So, but don't exercise that. Because someone you come, join the organization, however, if they feel that they got a raw deal, they'll be using your resources to job hunt. That's what I can guarantee you. So you'll be the loser at the end. Yeah. So it's just being very proactive, and like I said earlier, have a win-win situation. If the company does well, you know, declare a bonus to the staff. Don't just impress the investors. You know, it's the employees themselves who are able to bring such kind of results. So I think it's redefining the workplace, and I guess that's where us as HR professionals come in.
All right.
Yeah, in terms of advising management and the business owners to really implement best practices.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But also in brief, just to point out, sometimes when you see the HR come to the table and they are telling you this is what, sometimes when we come there, we have a budget. Every position that we hire for, sometimes you have a budget for this position. So we will probably come and tell you this is the maximum we can go, and then you work on intrinsic kind of buy-ins and give you other benefits other than this that we have. Yeah.
All right, and as we're winding up also, Mikali, then it could be, yes, this is your budget, but you can show prospect in terms of growth. Yeah, because I think other organizations like, I think international IBM is that they have a mapped out career path for you. You say, okay, so this is your entry point, and we expect you within 5 years, you should have risen to this, and this will be according to your performance, of course, and if you stay with the company. This is some of the buy-ins that they say, right? This will be the benefits along the way. So at least you know within 5 years, given these qualifications, I will have grown to this particular point. But what happens where you have no clue? There is no career path at all you're given. There is no career mapping that you're shown. It is up to you now to work your way, or someone else will come, get even higher salary than you are, pass your head, get, of course, another managerial position, and you still mark timing there. That can be frustrating. So how do you also address these issues as you're winding up? Very briefly.
Well, I think
career path.
Career path,
and
yeah.
And career mapping, yes.
Career mapping and career path. And first, I mean, as an employee, you are responsible for your own career growth. You have to invest in yourself. You have to get the right skills to grow. You have to seek that growth even within the organization. And what I know is that, and for sure, if you are a good employee and you do your job and your performance is good, then you must have an idea of how you want to grow in your profession, or within the organization, or even outside. We always say that you set your career goals, that I want to be a HR manager for 4 years, after that, whatever. So you have that stage of career path set for yourself. And then now you partner with the employer, you're telling them, this is how I see myself growing. Because many times we let the employer be the one who is managing our careers, and sometimes they don't care, you know. So you have to own it yourself. And there's nothing wrong sitting down with your line manager and your HR manager and saying, I've been on this role for this number of years. This has been my performance.
Yes.
I am stagnating. I feel I should be at this point. This is where I need to be. Why aren't I there?
Yes.
Start that conversation. And if you're a good employee, I tell you, they will listen. If you're not a good employee, don't even attempt it, because you will just be, you leave, because now you're exposing yourself. Yeah, but you have to speak up, and then also the managers have to be fair.
Thank you. Your closing remarks, Sarah.
I mean, I agree. Do not, as an employee, do not be afraid to have tough conversations. And as you own your career growth, you drive it. because this is where you want to be. This is, you argue it out. So basically I want to say, do not be afraid to have difficult conversations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear your closing remarks, Paminas.
I think for me, we need to see proactivity from both parties, because they're all working towards a common goal. We shouldn't have a scenario where employers say this is my docket and the employees also say these are my issues. Both parties should be proactive enough whenever there's an issue to come together and try to work towards a common goal.
Thank you.